Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's radio show, the LP Zone, Loss Prevention Zone, where everything is all about loss prevention, retail crime, retail security, organized retail crime. And we're glad that you're listening live, or maybe you're streaming on one of the many dozens of platforms that we use. Either way, we're excited to have you here. Today, we'll be talking about contract law enforcement, or using contract security officers to augment your loss prevention team or uniformed security team, the pros and the cons. We're also going to be talking about the many ORC specialized police units across the country. In the last 5 years, more and more police departments starting their own investigative unit to fight organized retail crime. But specifically, we've noticed in the last 2 to 3 years, many agencies have jumped on board, realizing the seriousness of these ORC gangs, and they're just not stealing because they're hungry. And police agencies from the California Highway Patrol to many departments in Florida and almost every state in the U.S. Are getting on board with the fact that this is a serious crime. Oftentimes, very violent and serious gang members are involved. The state of Michigan, New Jersey, and other states have in recent years passed more stringent laws to fight ORC. And today, we're going to be talking about that, as well as whether or not you should use contracted off-duty law enforcement or on-duty private security contract security companies, and what we're kind of noticing in the last few years about some of these law enforcement and contract security companies that do get hired to protect are oftentimes the ones now being accused of theft, sexual assault, and other crimes. So we'll be talking about that. I also want to bring up some of the latest news in the ORC world. Be sure to go to our blog every day. It's updated, privateofficerbreakingnews.blogspot.com. Our news magazine, digital magazine, updated regularly at privateofficernews.org. Be sure to join us on social media at facebook.com/Private Officer International and twitter.com/Private Officer. Be sure also to go to our website at privateofficer.org. And if you're not already a member of the association, join today. Get a lifetime membership with more than 50 member benefits. You can't beat that for just $99. And also remember, you can get involved with our association. We have many committees. We have a steering committee, an advisory board. We have a benevolent committee where you can assist those injured on the job. And we just got a lot of stuff happening, a ton of stuff happening. Contact help desk at privateofficer.com if you want more news, information, if you want to find out about where something is or how to do something or how to become part of this great organization and all the things that we offer. Well, I told you that the beginning of this program is going to be all about contracting off-duty law enforcement or contract security firms, the pros and the cons. And there are many benefits. And like with every other profession, you're going to have good and you're going to have the bad apple. That's life. I got it. But I wonder if we invest ourselves and our business too much into the belief that by paying off-duty law enforcement or contract security, we're going to get a good return on our investment. I've noticed, right since I was working as a floor walker dozens of years ago, that stores put too much faith when they had law enforcement on the property. First of all, there's no guarantee that law enforcement will be invested in stopping shoplifters. There's no guarantee that law enforcement will be invested in backing up loss prevention. Yes, many of them do. Yes, many of them are very active when they're working for a mall or a specific store with the security team, but not always. And I have heard law enforcement and contract security both say, you know, that's not our job. We're just here to, you know, stop someone from assaulting an employee or a more violent crime from happening. We're just here to observe and report. Police are also very self-aware of the liability aspect of stopping a shoplifter. They are working in police uniform, and if they are within their jurisdiction, they still do have police authority even though they are off duty, but they can also be held liable for making a bad shoplifter stop, for using too much force, for doing something that, you know, they were trying to aid and assist security, but it didn't turn out well. In recent years, this has become more true than ever. Back when I worked as a store security manager, loss prevention manager, I had very good relationships, very good communication with law enforcement from that jurisdiction, who was always there on the floor, right next to the LP agents. And yeah, force was used oftentimes to detain someone, but it's not like it is today. Today, you use or even talk about using force, someone's going to sue you. You use a little bit too much force because the situation in your eyes warranted it, and you're going to be arrested. There's a lot of concerns right now for off-duty police officers working not only at stores and shopping malls and retail outlets, but also at nightclubs and other off-duty jobs. Recently, a situation happened in the Atlanta Metro. An off-duty police officer working for a nice, exclusive community stopped a vehicle, stopped a person, got him out of the vehicle, questioned him, searched the vehicle. There was some type of verbal confrontation that led to an arrest. He used a little bit too much force. He was charged. He was arrested. He was prosecuted. I looked at the case. I looked at the facts known to the public, at least. It didn't look to me like he had used too much force, but that's where we're at today. Right now, there are dozens of police officers under investigation across the country for excessive use of force. I see videos every day where the public is only telling a partial story, not the whole story. And unfortunately for law enforcement and even for contract security, it doesn't play out well. I'll tell you, we saw a story that was kind of very disturbing. My office found the story about a week and a half ago, I guess, where a security officer at a retail store had an interaction with someone who had been shoplifting. Now, that person was able to get into the vehicle and was beginning to flee, so the security agent backed off and was crossing the parking lot back toward the store when the driver of the vehicle, the shoplifter, intentionally ran the security agent over, injuring them. It was not an accident. It was intentional. The violence level in retail security, loss prevention, has increased dramatically. And even the media and I have interviewed recently with a number of reporters on this subject, and even law enforcement has taken note of the increased violence in retail and shoplifting in ORC and in security in general. When I come back from this first break, we're going to talk about the pluses of hiring, first, uniformed off-duty police, and second, contract security. And then we're going to talk about the risk and the liabilities that have to be considered before you sign those contracts. Right now, first of all, police, they're a little, I don't want to say afraid, they're worried about themselves, their families. They're worried about consequences, as is contract security, although they're quicker to take the contract and worry about those things later on down the road than law enforcement is today. You're listening to the LP Zone, the Loss Prevention Zone, where everything is about loss prevention, asset protection, ORC, and retail security. The voice of the Frontline Protector coming right back in just a moment.
Body Armor USA, we've got what it takes to protect you. Whether you're looking for the top quality protective armor or protective clothing, stab-resistant vest or gloves, contact my friend Ben over at Body Armor USA. Give him a call, 516 area code 817-1666. Again, that's area code 516-817-1666. Body Armor USA, we've got what it takes to protect you. No doubt about it.
Think about everything that you save. You save gas, you save money, you save time. But have you ever thought about saving life? That's right, life. In just 1 hour, you could save up to 3 lives, giving 3 people more time with the ones they love. And isn't that the best thing to save? The need for blood is as universal as it is constant. Save life, give blood.
Each day, those that protect and service in law enforcement put their lives on the line. These law enforcement officers often work long and irregular hours in tough and dangerous conditions, run a high risk of being attacked, wounded, or even killed by the very criminals that prey on us. Every year, hundreds of law enforcement officers are killed or seriously injured in the line of duty. Blue Alert is a system that provides the means to speed the apprehension of violent criminals who kill or seriously injure local, state, or federal law enforcement officers. Find out how you can truly help those who help. That's bluealert.us.
Thank you for joining me today on the LP Zone. We're talking about the benefits and assets of hiring off-duty contract law enforcement in our retail department stores, big box stores, specialty stores, shopping malls, and grocery stores, as well as the benefits of hiring contract private security companies. But along with the benefits, we have to look at the disadvantages and some of the negativities and decide whether or not one outweighs the other. One of the pros, of course, of hiring law enforcement for our retail stores or malls is the fact that they are law enforcement. Much different than contract security. They have more authority. They have more backup. They're able to immediately call into dispatch and get more cars, more officers responding to any situation at the store or the mall. And they're also able to have the ability to chase down people who flee for them, whether it's from a shoplifting, a robbery, a purse snatching, whatever it might be, that has occurred on the property. And they're able, as we used to say, and still do, I guess, we don't have to be quick or fast, okay? That's what the push of the button of the radio does. It gets officers out to the area, and now we have, cordon off the area, and we're able to, 9 times out of 10, get that person into custody. So there's that. Of course, the officer is able to make a police officer arrest, a custodial arrest, if it warrants it, whereas a contract security officer can just detain a person. In some states, they do make the official citizen's arrest, and they have to appear in court just like the arresting police officer would. There are definitely pros and cons to everything that we do in life, and hiring off-duty law enforcement for any business, whether it's a nightclub or a department store or grocery chain, it's going to come with its good and bad. There are incidents, some people feel, that are escalated just for the fact that it is a police officer who's involved, a police officer working off-duty in uniform, and 9 times out of 10 driving a police vehicle. And some people believe, especially in the last 3 or 4 years, that escalates the situation, which is the argument that has been made for 3 or 4 years about pulling SROs and other law enforcement out of schools because their presence puts others in danger and escalates the situation. The same is said now for retail outlets. They believe having police at the front door intimidates them, especially if the police officer is allowed to walk through the store, patrol the store, peruse what's going on. People believe that they're being followed by law enforcement, and that's the same for contract security. We've heard that argument many, many times, especially in the past 5 years. Some of the other benefits, of course, of law enforcement is that they have much more training. They have gone through a lot more hours in many different categories of training. They also oftentimes are specialty officers, meaning that they have training in addition to the academy. Some have SWAT, EMT or paramedic. Some have our specialized units, whether that be robbery unit, gang unit, whatever it might be, and therefore they have a little bit more training in those areas, as well as they can quickly recognize the people that they often come into contact with in the community, and they know that they're up to no good. Benefits of hiring law enforcement used to be that they would park their police car out in front of the store. And people would look at the police car and think twice about shoplifting at the store. But the funny story is, over the years, there's a program called Shop with the Cop, where many police officers take underprivileged children into the store and they shop with them. They give them money through various programs to buy things for their family, presents. And during those events, a lot of times, shoplifters are caught shoplifting by LP and law enforcement. So even with all of those police cars, I'll never forget there was a story a few years back, it may have been before COVID or during COVID, but police were at the store, I believe it was a Target store, doing that very thing, and there were at least a dozen police cars out front, but a man was caught shoplifting. And when they asked him, hey, didn't you see those police cars? He said, yeah, but I thought the cops would all be busy with the kids. Well, they were, but there was an LP agent in the store, and he caught the suspect shoplifting. There are definitely benefits of hiring off-duty law enforcement. Training, being able to contact additional law enforcement and resources quicker, having a marked patrol car, which I don't really think is an advantage anymore. I don't really think that many people could care less about law enforcement. They could care less about a police car. They're very brazen these days, as you can see on YouTube and other social media platforms. So I'm not sure that that plays into the plus size as much as it would have maybe 5 or 10 years ago. Some of the negatives in hiring law enforcement is that, unfortunately, in recent years, they too have been caught shoplifting. Case in point, and this is kind of, I don't know, outrage is the first thing I saw. In Michigan, Lansing, Michigan, a Lansing police officer was accused of switching the prices on sports cards and then trying to sell them for more money. A scheme authorities say was caught by security at Meijer. Meijer is like a Walmart in the Midwest, and the theft was in excess of $10,000. He switched the prices of those, like kind of baseball cards, but other sports cards, and then he went out and, sold them. The police officer was apprehended. He was arrested. I don't know. What do you say? Officer Gregory Tracy, he said he was going to continue selling them for a higher price, according to Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel. The Michigan State Police was also involved. They said that the police officer was discovered to have been involved in more than 65 separate incidents in Michigan of theft from stores, some where he worked at. Another police officer, this happened last year in Texas, was arrested after he was caught shoplifting 9 times at a Walmart where he worked off-duty security. While you would hope that law enforcement would be more professional and that you could trust them more, unfortunately, and for many reasons that we just don't have time to go in on this program, police officers are human, and sometimes they see opportunities and think about the money rather than their profession, their job, their dignity. Officers working for law enforcement agencies are a plus in some aspects. Now, the negatives of hiring off-duty law enforcement is, again, almost the same. They have authority to arrest anyone, and they sometimes will escalate that situation and then arrest that person, putting the store into a bigger liability situation because the store is ultimately going to be responsible. Also, we talked about the theft. It's not a 1 or 2 time deal. We have seen police officers in recent years arrested on a regular basis while working off-duty gigs, and certainly this is probably going to, in my opinion, increase as the recruitment process decreases. Another, I think, negative of hiring off-duty law enforcement is that depending on the agency, the city and the town, what's called secondary employment in some areas only goes to officers who are in good with that officer or lieutenant or captain who puts together that schedule. And so some police officers make good off-duty money doing this type of work, while others don't get picked, don't get selected. It's political in some departments. I'm not saying all, but definitely in some. Negative and pluses, negative and positives. Contract security, it's the same thing. Contract security has less training. Contract security oftentimes has no access to 24-hour dispatch and therefore must use a cell phone to call 911. Contract security has limited authority. Can't make arrests in many states, not even a citizen's arrest. Contract security has no retail security, for the most part, training, and they don't know if a crime has been committed or not. Contract security, just like law enforcement, sometimes can escalate, not de-escalate situations. Pluses and minuses. Yes, contract security are cheaper to hire. Law enforcement, especially off-duty, is much more expensive. In some areas right now, off-duty police are being paid as much as $100 and more per hour. The average price, I looked this up last week, the average price for off-duty law enforcement right now is about $63 an hour nationwide, the average. Pluses and minuses when you're dealing with hiring contract security or off-duty law enforcement. What is your purpose? If you're a security manager, a regional LP manager, a security manager at a mall, you have to ask yourself, why are we hiring a contract police officer or a contract security business? What do we want them to do? Are they just there to look the part? Are they there to be proactive? Are they there to be active when a crime goes down? Are they there just to direct traffic in the parking lot? Are they there for access control? Are they there as a backup for our proprietary security? How much do we want them to do, and what do we want them to do, and when do we want them to do it? All of those things have to be figured out, and knowing that information will help you to make a good, positive decision as to whether you need off-duty law enforcement or off-duty or on-duty contract security. I have found that over the years, in using contract security, mainly for the holidays, Christmas shopping season, that they do a good job in being a visible deterrent. But when you have professionals and you have people who are determined to steal, they don't care about somebody in uniform. I've had plenty of shoplifters that we've taken into custody over the years when we had an off-duty police officer standing at the service desk at the front of the store. They didn't care about him. They knew where he was, and they knew that they could go do their thing and get by. Some pushed through the fire doors, and they went out into a waiting vehicle. Police weren't able to stop them and never made an arrest on them. So it really depends on what it is that you're trying to accomplish with hiring off-duty law enforcement or contract security. Either way, there's going to be plenty of liability. There's going to be some times when you have good people, good off-duty officers, good contract security officers, and other times you're inviting problems, more problems, into your store. And that's going to do it for this episode of the Loss Prevention Zone, where everything is all about loss prevention, retail security, and organized retail crime. Remember, contact us, helpdesk@privateofficer.com. Listen to our Private Officer Beat Radio tomorrow right here on the Private Officer Beat Network. And in the meantime, y'all be safe, be blessed, and we'll see you back here on the radio.